Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vanished Chicagoland Stories, the podcast, episode 25. This is your host, P. Castanes, and this program is brought to you by Old Chicago Indoor Amusement Park that was located in Bolingbrook, Illinois. And here is a radio commercial from 1977 that aired on 95.5 WMET FM.
Looking for a break? Want to get away from it all? Then come scream your troubles away at Old Chicago, the world's only full-sized indoor amusement park. Come date night this Friday night. Your date gets to ride the rides absolutely free. You can even bump yourself blue in the Disco Bash Friday and Saturday nights. Talk about a good time, then talk about it at Old Chicago. Old Chicago, I-55 in Bolingbrook.
Llévate más de lo que esperas todos los días con el nuevo McValue en McDonald's. Ahora puedes comprar uno y sumarle otro por $1. Así que cuando tu equipo favorito enfrente a sus rivales, enfrenta tus antojos con $5 Meal Deals. Y si estás corriendo para alcanzar el desayuno, corre a la para llevarte ofertas antes del cutoff. Tú decides, y con McValue, tu decisión siempre rinde más. Precios y participación pueden variar. BOGO $1 válido para un producto de igual o menor valor. Debe estar registrado en Rewards para ofertas en el app.
Okay, we are back. I hope you enjoyed that commercial from Old Chicago that was located at Bolingbrook, as I should say, Old Chicago Indoor Amusement Park. I will talk about that particular place at the end of the show, but today's a special episode. I'm going to talk about three celebrities that passed away this past weekend, and that have special memories for me while growing up in Chicago. Okay, the first person I will talk about is Gavin MacLeod. We all know from his roles, his most famous roles, that is, from the Love Boat and the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And I will talk about him, all the shows that I watched when I was little and watching him on TV, and talk a little bit about his career. And he passed away on this past Saturday. He was 90 years old. And what can you say about him? He was a very talented man. And every time you mention his name, you think of Captain Stubing on the Love Boat and Murray Slaughter on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And he starred in a lot of television shows way back in the late 50s. And one of the other famous roles he had besides that, he starred in Hawaii Five-0. And he played his name was Big Chicken. He played a drug pusher. And I never seen the episodes, but I heard he was not a very nice guy in the show. So... And then his earliest roles was he starred in the Dick Van Dyke Show, and that starred with his co-star Mary Tyler Moore on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And this is the first time they met. I don't think they were in the same scenes together. No, I don't think so. But he was there. He played a jewelry salesman, and he sold. Robert Petrie, the Dick Van Dyke's character, a very elaborate necklace, and it was from the Empress Carlotta, and it was hideous. You know, it looked like a big, when Mary Tyler Moore wore it, she looked like she wore a chandelier. And that's one of the funniest episodes. I love the show. I still watch it. I got it on Blu-ray, and it looks beautiful. So I'll start rewatching it again. And the second, in 1970, he was cast as Murray Slaughter on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I didn't really watch the show when I was growing up, maybe a couple episodes, but, it was opposite. No, it wasn't opposite. It was aired on Saturday nights, I think 8 o'clock. And then on Saturday nights in the early 70s, everyone watched Creature Features. So, but that aired at 10:30. And the Maritime World show premiered on the same day as Creature Features, so that was a big day for television history on September 19th. And Gavin MacLeod played the role for 7 years, and he was very funny. And what a cast! And I love his put downs to Ted Baxter, played by Ted Knight. And but even though he was funny and made fun of him, he had his own personal problems too. I want to mention something else. A lot of people probably didn't realize he was in the TV show McHale's Navy that aired from 1962 to 1966. But he was only there for 2 years, and he left the second year because, according to reports, he was battling alcoholism. So he left. But the funny thing is, when they made 2 movies of McHale's Navy, and he came back for one movie, which I did see that, and that was nice to see him. His character's name was Happy Haynes, real name Joseph. So what a shame. And then, of course, he went into The Love Boat right after Mary Tyler Moore ended. And Aaron Spelling, that produced the show or created it, he offered him the role, and he took it because it was a starring role. I think he always wanted to be the lead, and I'm glad he did. And that show ran for, 9 years. And they made some movies after that. And watching The Love Boat on Saturday nights was nice, sometimes embarrassing because I was a teenager then. And then, as teenagers, you go out on a Saturday night, you go on a date, you go to parties or any event. But I did watch the show most of the time. That was one of my mother's favorite shows. And you would see the cast of thousands. You would see all celebrities from the golden age of movies, and it was fun watching that. And then you saw TV stars that were popular then, and then that TV stars that became famous later on. And I remember there was Tom Hanks. He started in an episode. I remember seeing that. And so, like I said before, it ended in 1986, and he acted a few more, and then. So he was identified as Captain Stewie forever, but he didn't mind. He was a very nice actor, and his reruns will live on forever. Okay, the second person I want to talk about that passed away was singer B.J. Thomas. Now, you would ask me, why would I talk about him when it has to do with Chicago? Well, a couple things. The first time I've heard him sing was from the 1969 movie Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, and that movie was released in, like I said, in 1969. I've seen it a couple times. It's a great movie with Paul Newman, Robert Redford, and Catherine Ross, and they played that song. Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, sung by B.J. Thomas, and he was famous for that. When you ever hear that song, you think of the movie, and then when you hear the movie, you think of that song. And like I said before, I've seen it a couple times, and one time during the 70s when the show Benny Hill, the Benny Hill show that starred Benny Hill, that started syndicating in the late 70s on Channel 32 and WFLD, Benny Hill did a spoof of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, and they played the song, and he's riding the bicycle. I forgot which character it was. I think it was Robert Redford or Paul Newman. I think one of those two. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie. And Benny Hill's riding the bicycle, but I think he fell down while he was riding. So one of my brothers mentioned that, and they thought of him. But you got to think of the movie, not because when Benny Hill fell down from the bicycle, and while B.J. Thomas was singing the song. And anyway, so B.J. Thomas had a great career. He had a lot of hits from the late 60s to by the time he died. And according to reports, he was supposed to perform at a concert here in Chicago in St. Charles, but I guess he passed away, so he won't be able to. And I remember seeing him on Hee Haw, and that show is goofy and they tell bad jokes, and then you have these country music performances, and he was there performing. He was wonderful. And let's see, other hits he sang was Hooked on a Feeling, and of course Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. And let's see, there were a couple more. Let's see what we got. Let's see here. I Just Can't Help Believing. I like that song. And there was one from 1975. I remember hearing it on WLS-FM. It was, Hey, Won't You Play Another Somebody Done Somebody Wrong song. At first I didn't like it, but I loved the song. So, and that came out, and that was released in 75. And like I said, WLS-FM or AM used to play it all the time. So it's a shame he passed away. He was he was 78 years old, and he was suffered from lung cancer. So that's a shame. All right. The third celebrity I want to talk about is this actress. She passed away yesterday on May 31st. Her name was Arlene Golonka, or Golonka. I don't know how to pronounce her name. And she was everywhere on television, everywhere, all TV shows, starting from the late 60s until maybe a couple of years ago. And I had to find out some information about her, where she grew up and how she got started. And believe it or not, she is from Chicago. And she was raised in the Wicker Park neighborhood. And she went to Wicker Park Elementary School. I don't know what it's called. I think now it's called Roberto Clemente Grammar School. I'm not sure. And she graduated from, it was Wicker Park Elementary School. I think they renamed it. And she went to Tully High School, or Tully, how they pronounce it. And that changed to Robert Clemente Academy or something like that. And then she was born in Chicago, and her name is Polish, and it means, I looked it up, I could be wrong, it means pigfoot or ham hock, which is funny. So, and then she worked at the Goodman Theater, and then she moved to New York and did some roles in Broadway, and then she came to California in 1967, and then she started in a lot of TV shows. I'll give you some examples. She was on Get Smart. She was on Maude. She was on That Girl, Mary Tyler Moore's show, which I mentioned before. MASH, All in the Family. She was on Taxi. She was, and recent past few years, she was on King of Queens. So her famous role was she started on the Andy Griffith Show. And then she co-starred in the spinoff Mayberry RFD, which starred Ken Berry. And a lot of the regulars from the Andy Griffith Show moved over to that sitcom for the spinoff. And Andy Griffith appeared very early on in the show, and then he left. And then Don Knotts, I believe, appeared in one episode, and so did Ron Howard, who played Opie. And Mayberry RFD premiered in 1968. And let's see, I'll give you the date on that. And here we are. It premiered in September 23rd, 1968, ended in March 29th, 1971. That ran for 3 years. It was still popular, but then it was canceled in 1971, where rest of the shows that was called the Rural Purge from CBS, and Mayberry RFD was one. Hee Haw in Green Acres. Petticoat Junction ended in 1970, a year earlier, so they were all gone. And they mentioned that any show that had a tree in it, was canceled, which is terrible, because most of the shows were fine. they were doing well in the ratings, but times had changed. And then in the 70s, everything got a little political and controversial. That's why All in the Family, which premiered in 1971, became so popular. It was different, and it was shocking, controversial. It's still a funny show. Anyway, for Mayberry RFD, also starred a actor. His name was Buddy Foster, and that he is Jodie Foster's brother. Actually, his real name is Lucius, and I found out Jodie Foster's real name is Alicia. So she did star in the show, and so did Farrah Fawcett and Terry Garr. So Arlene Golonka, after she left Mayberry RFD, she starred in a lot of shows, like I mentioned, and she seemed like a very bubbly, very nice lady. And I've seen it. She's done some commercials too. So she's one of those people that if you saw her face, you wouldn't know her name, but you would know who she was. So she had a very wonderful career, and it's a shame she passed away. She was 85 years old. Okay. The last thing I will talk about is not related to celebrities, and that would be Old Chicago Indoor Amusement Park. And, a lot of people who grew up in the Chicago area in the 70s remembered that indoor park very well, and so did I. To tell you the truth, I have never been there. I have not been there, and I don't know why. I wish I did, because I love amusement parks. I always have. And it was the first indoor amusement park, and it opened on June 17th, 1975. And it had 3 roller coasters and a Ferris wheel. And they had a shopping mall, and it was like the turn of the century. And they had some wonderful shops. And it competed with Six Flags, but Great America, but it was called Marriott's Great America, and that hurt attendance, and it was losing money by the time as the years progressed. And it was open every day, but by 1978 they began closing Mondays and Tuesdays, and the park closed on March 17th, 1980. And then they tore it down, and then it was demolished in 1986 in the spring. So I don't know what's there now. The last I heard, a rumor they were going to build a Amazon distribution center. I don't know if they're going to. That's a hurt. But as far as I know, but there's still a sign that says Old Chicago, like a street sign somewhere. Someone told me about that. A friend of mine that used to grew up there, he told me about that. And the person who designed the amusement park, his name was Robert Brindle. And he got that idea from Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California, right outside LA. So they had their grand opening on June 17th, 1975. And I remember I posted something about that Marshall Brodeen, who played Wizzle the Wizard, Bozo Circus, and he was a professional magician. He opened a magic shop there. And I didn't know that. And some people remembered it. And they remembered that. And there are pictures of that, which is great. And so the reason I talked about Old Chicago is that I found an ad that B.J. Thomas performed there in October 1979, and there were a lot of acts, a lot of music acts, a lot of even TV heartthrobs at the time. There was Willie Ames from It Is Enough. He performed there. He sang, which I didn't know. It must have been interesting. And let's see, there was some amusement parks rides. There was the roller coasters. There was called the Chicago Loop roller coaster, and now it's called the Kenobi Corkscrew, and that operates in a amusement park called Kenobi Lake Park, and that is in Salem, New Hampshire, right outside of Boston. It's interesting. And So I'm trying to find what other rides were there, and I will look. Let's see what we got here. And I don't know about how would I say this? Like stores and they, like I said, concerts. They had like that. Okay, and then let's talk about the mall for a bit. And they had ice cream shops, sold T-shirts. There was one called they had an area called the Water Street Market, and there was a restaurant called the Beer Garden Restaurant. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, very nice. And I know they had an arcade there. Yeah, so you can play games with that. So let's see what else they have here. They, like I mentioned, they had the Chicago Loop, a roller coaster that looked like a lot of fun. And let's see what else they had. They had they had the log races there and all kinds of stuff. One thing that was interesting was there was a movie they filmed at Old Chicago. Here, look it up. I think it was the movie called Fury, The Fury. I remember they advertised that on the on TV and I heard it on the radio. And let's see what else. And the movie The Fury that came out in 1978, they filmed around the Chicagoland area, and there were some scenes in the amusement park that was filmed there, and they showed the Chicago Loop, roller coaster. And the movie starred Kirk Douglas, John Cassavetes, Amy Irving. That starred in Carrie. That was Andrew Stevens. And that movie was scary to me when that came out. And so they did. I remember there's some videos on YouTube, and you can find them, and also pictures on the internet where the actual movie, the 1978 movie, The Fury, was filmed, and that was interesting. Okay. So that'll be all for today. I'm glad you joined me. This is the last episode of the season, episode 25. But like I said before, don't worry. I will start a new episode, and that'd be season 2. Would be show 1. I would call it episode 26. And hopefully I'll do one this upcoming weekend, and it'll be a lot of fun. Okay, so I hope everyone had a nice 3-day holiday weekend. And this is Pika Sanas for Vanished Chicagoland Stories, the podcast. And so it's bye-bye for now for me. And take it away, Ray Rayner.
We have to go. Bye, bye, bye.